Well, a few weeks back, I was hoping to bring you the most incredible story around Farm for Real, which is a donor and grant funding based non-profit. It's trying to create jobs, improve nourishment for the poor, and particularly make an impact in urban areas. But even the best laid plans can come undone as someone pulled the plug quite literally at Summer Place. So it's a great pleasure to welcome back for a non-unplugged, a fully plugged session, Director of Farm for Real, Andrew Pott. And Andrew, thanks for coming on down, and so sorry for what happened at Summer Place. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to come back.
And on the line, we've also got Lesley, Kgaswe, the very passionate principal of Indyebo Primary School. Lesley, thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Mike, and good evening to your listeners.
Now, for listeners, I must disclose, I first met Andrew when I was working on the South African Water, Energy and Food Forum with Professor Anthony Turton many moons ago. And Andrew, back then you were with the DHI, the Danish Hydrological Institute, very technical, focused on the water, energy, food nexus. And you were really seized with this whole question of the intersection of our big picture water, energy and food issues. Now you've almost gone back to grassroots with Farm for Real. How did that come about?
Well, I think it starts by taking a drive down the road in the morning and seeing unemployed people with their hands in the air, forlorn, without anything to do, and looking up and feeling the sun beating down on me and saying, why aren't we utilizing that opportunity? And after reading some around about this, I found out about this thing called square foot gardening, raised bed gardening. And the technology is so simple, it can be applied, it can be replicated by anyone. So the idea was then, well, how do I take this to the people? And obviously education is a big problem. Even if I ask yourself, do you know anything about raised bed gardening? Do you know the yield potential? Do you know when to plant what, how to plant things, what goes with what? No. Yet we have a water, energy, food nexus problem, a challenge. So what? And this is, I think, where Lesley, the professor, the headmaster, also come in to start saying, what are we teaching our kids?
Well, exactly. I mean, I struggle to keep my African violets alive, and those are pretty hardy. Lesley, tell me a little bit more about square foot gardening.
Mike, square foot for gardening is a very nice project that was introduced to, particularly in South Africa. If you know that this world, we are living in an ever-changing world, where food is genetically modified. And then we are taking our nutrition back to the basics, where we grow vegetables, and we make sure that our kids and South Africans, they get nutritious food. And then I think in a situation where we find ourselves in South Africa, where people are complaining that there's lack of enough space for farming, Farm for Real came in handy with this technology, where we can utilize their innovation in a short space, a very limited space, and even in a township where there's no enough space, we can still use the technology that was introduced by Farm for Real. And it's a good method.
It's a great method, and I've got to interject there quickly, because Andrew, you dropped off one of these pallet type solutions that can then be quickly assembled into a square foot garden that you can set up in any open space. And it really is, it's modular, it's low tech, and it's highly scalable. Just tell me where you developed the idea for that particular concept.
Well, the square foot garden concept came from a civil engineer in America who loved gardening and was asking some very practical questions. Why do we do things the way we do? We basically hoe the land up, plant our seeds, and we walk over the very land we've just hoed. There's huge spaces between the different crops. Why are we wasting all the space? So when we irrigate, we're irrigating basically a bare patch of ground, and it's evaporating, and we're losing all that water. Then there's also drainage. We're basically back to standing on the very land that we've just hoed up. Your drainage is implicated, and your crop yields reduce. So he said, why don't we basically build the boxes, raise beds, put in good compost. We can control the soil. We know what is in there, and that's normally compost or some mix, growing mix. So we know what we're dealing with. You can't over-irrigate because it'll drain. The sides of the box catch the rays of the sun, heat the soil up, the crops grow better. And because it's a square foot, basically a foot is a meter and a bit, you can stand anywhere around the box and touch into the box and work with the crops that you've got. So it's just so easy.
And what are you looking for to roll this particular project out at scale? Just any land, open land, anywhere? And obviously funding must be a big challenge.
Yes. So to start with, I would just like to acknowledge the Innovation Hub. We placed the idea with them, and they've given us some seed funding.
Excuse the pun.
Yes, it's some seed funding, to try it out, and that's why we've rolled it out at the Indyebo primary, the school, and also the golf course. So here's the challenge. I mentioned that the sun beats down here in South Africa, so we've got one key ingredient of creating a crop. The next one is space. There are people with even limited space, shacks even, where you could have the crop. But now how do you get the box to them? You're going to need to get it donated. Right. So we're now going to our starting point was to go to, for example, golf club. They got lots of space. They've got lots of extra water. And in the case, Kyalami Golf Course said that we could utilize some of their space, but we need to get the boxes donated there, and then we can help the farmers who are the caddies, who basically starting to get less income because people are driving around in their golf carts more and more. We can help them produce a crop. We're also, through the program, helping to market that crop. We're going to shops and saying, are you aware of the Farm for Real initiative? Will you be prepared to buy the crop? So the Jackson's Food Market have come to the party, and they're going to start being an off-take point. And we encourage other similar shops to come to the party. And
it really feeds into local sourcing, to this idea that we're building communities, and it's a great way to engender that kind of thinking. But Lesley, to go back to the impact that this is having on learners, on young children who probably until this point haven't ever encountered this kind of artisanal farming before. What sort of impact has this had on the learners at Indyebo Primary?
Mike, to be honest and frank with you, it has had a lot of impact on our learners. Most of them, they have not been aware of where we get this nutritious meal like vegetables. They believe that we get these vegetables from the shop. So it was for the first time or first-hand experience for them to learn on how to plant vegetables on the land, and on the land that is can hold water for quite longer periods. So I think it was quite interesting for what Andrew and the company has done for our school. The kids really enjoyed the day they came to launch the project at our school. It's been a marvelous project. And
I believe, Andrew, that this also feeds into BE points. If corporates are looking for BE points, that you can assist there as well.
Yes, look, we realize that because we need things to be donated, things need to be attractive to the donor. And one is obviously the BE. The other one is that because it's a non-profit, there can be a tax claim back. But the other thing over here is, if I can put a challenge out for an organization, for example, like Discovery, who's got a vitality program, we're basically deploying these boxes where they can literally brand their logo on our boxes, okay? And their brand name can be there. And it's to the populace that are going to be tomorrow's leaders, businessmen, champions.
And let's face it, you're not growing McDonald's chips. You're growing the real, actual potato. I wonder how many children actually know at that sort of centennial level that potatoes give us chips. I say it flippantly, but it's a very important message, a social message that you're delivering at the same time.
100%. And if I could just add on, if you go onto the website and you look at Square Foot Gardening, I mean, Mel Bartholomew sold millions of books, a big hit. If you go onto the YouTube site, you'll find a lot of information, but these are crops grown in America. What happens here in South Africa? So what we're trying to do through the Farm for Real platform is also to create a body of knowledge where people can upload their information. We can capture local knowledge in the vernacular, Zulu, what have you, and teach people how to do it themselves. And in the case of the Indyebo school, the idea will be for the kids to go back home and say, why can't they do it at home?
Super. How do listeners find out more about Farm for Real?
Look, I think go to our Facebook site. We do have a website, but it is under construction at the moment. But otherwise, contact me, Andrew, at farmforreal.com.
Super. Well, you're a non-profit. I like to see that you're keeping overheads as low as possible. Let's go the social media route. And Andrew, I wish you everything of the best in rolling out as many square foot boxes as you can. A fantastic initiative, and wonderful to be able to help amplify that message with listeners here on Classic Business. That was Andrew Pott, Director of Farm for Real. And on the line, Lesley Kgaswe, Principal of Indyebo Primary School.